Joe Rogan's podcast is known for deep conversations, wild theories, and mind-blowing stories. But every now and then, things take a chilling turn. From ghostly encounters to alien abductions to haunted objects and government secrets. These are the spookiest moments ever shared on the Joe Rogan Experience. Are you ready? Comedian Tom Papa thought his Nest camera would bring him peace of mind while he was on the road, until it delivered his worst nightmare.
Did I ever show you the picture of my ghost?
You have a picture of a ghost?
Didn't I show you that?
Did
I ever show you that, Jamie?
I don't think so.
No?
You have a ghost?
I have a ghost.
One night he received an alert, and what he saw shook him to his very core.
I got one of those Nest cameras.
Oh, the Nest cameras captured a ghost?
And I was at the Comedy Works in Denver.
Yeah.
And I got an alert on my email the first time, like if it senses movement, it alerts you. And I open it up and there's my dog, Bella, just in the thing. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm just like, I'm in Denver and I'm looking at my office. And I thought, wouldn't that be a cool beginning of a horror movie if you get an alert on your phone and back at home there's a guy just staring in the camera. So then as I'm saying that to my opening act, who wasn't a ghost, I get another alert, and then this comes up. Oh yeah, you can see it up there.
A shadowy figure stood motionless in his doorway. Was it an intruder, a ghost, or just a trick of the light? Even Joe Rogan wasn't convinced it was fully a spirit.
That's a man with a wrench.
Yeah, or a man in a trench coat with an Uzi. This is 10 o'clock at night. The only people home are my wife and my daughter. This is on the second floor. There is no shadow coming in the thing. It's a ghost. That's a legit ghost.
You don't think that's a person?
That's not a person.
For sure.
My wife is the only one in the house.
And you think that's a gun in his hand? Could be a clipboard. Maybe he's just a really annoying surveyor from the dead.
I have a ghost in my house. And then we hear things.
Yeah, see, it seems like, the light is behind him, right? Like the outside right edge of it is sort of highlighted, like there's a light behind him. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like a gun, though.
It is weird.
I mean, it could be a gun.
And then I got this video.
Really?
And yeah, I do. And then my wife... Yeah, we've all had little things go on in the house.
Like what kind of little things?
My wife thought someone was standing right behind her. She's doing the laundry. She thought it was my daughter, and turned, and there was...
Oh, that's a bug.
It's a fucking bug, right? Thank you,
Jamie.
Jamie. Let's watch this. Let's watch this so everyone at home can laugh at how fucking crazy Tom Papa is. Here we go.
Well, if you first...
Let's watch the bug. Oh, look. Fucking bug.
A flat paper
Just
piece
shut
of
your
paper.
mouth.
Oh,
No.
all bugs look like a fortune cookie.
Dude, it's a bug. Listen to me. 1,000,000% that is a fucking bug.
All right, I'll buy that one.
See if you can find that,
I'm
Jamie.
convinced. But that other one...
Well, you're
Well, I'm looking at you.
a ghost lover, bro.
I am a ghost lover. I love all of it. I love being in a spooky old house, a nice old church, theaters.
The Comedy Store belly room scares me sometimes.
Yeah,
I've taken people up there. I go, just stand here and tell me if you don't feel weird.
in the belly room.
There's something about the belly room. When you go above those stairs, it's just like there's something about that room, especially when there's no show going on. It just feels like your body's telling you, get the fuck out of here.
Right?
Let's get out of here.
So what is that?
You're a bitch.
Dan Aykroyd didn't just play a Ghostbuster, he lives like one. From owning a haunted farmhouse in Canada to buying the former home of legendary singer Mama Cass Elliot, his experiences with the paranormal are no joke. But the most shocking part? A spirit allegedly climbed into bed with him. According to Aykroyd, he snuggled a ghost.
I'm there with my dad in Canada a lot, and we have the old family farm, but with the haunted farmhouse, and I've got
Is
a
it
book
haunted?
for you. Well, let me say that there's residual energy from the people who've lived there in the past. So you hear footsteps and voices and creaks and doors closing and that, and many people have had experiences in it. So
there's a
Michael,
reason
come
why
on.
people don't want to live in a house where people were murdered.
No one was killed in that farmhouse, but
Right, but-
many people passed there.
But even that weirds people out. But absolutely, if you have a house where people were murdered, and this is why there's laws, you have to divulge.
I did. I had to divulge.
Did you?
It wasn't because of a murder, but when I sold our house in Los Angeles, we lived in Mama Cass's old estate on Woodrow Wilson Drive, and we sold it to Beverly D'Angelo, and she's been on the Celebrity Ghost Show talking about the spirits that were in that house.
What happens?
Jewelry will hop around on the table, shapes will be seen, you'll feel a touch in the shoulder, that kind of thing. The staff felt it. And I had an experience one night where something got into bed with me. I was alone. I don't know what went on there, but I just figured
Sexually?
well, in my...
A little bit? You fucked a ghost?
I think I was being come on to there, but anyway, or it did try to come on to me, and I didn't refuse its
So you resisted?
wanton. You know what? I just snuggled up next to it and went to sleep.
You spooned with it.
I did. I felt a shape. I looked and saw the depression in the I saw the depression in the mattress, and I felt a shape, something next to me, like felt a form next to me, and
Were you hammered?
I nuggled. No, not that night. I was working on a picture and went to bed early. But
So
I was alone in the house.
you're laying alone in bed, and you're working on a film.
I'm lying there.
What film was it?
It was something that I've been working down at Universal. I don't know, maybe Dragnet or something like that.
Okay, so you're working on Dragnet. You're lying in bed, and then there's like a weight next to you.
I feel a weight next to me. I turn and I look.
Like a person is laying in bed.
I saw the depression. There were two, yes, and there were two spirits that might have been there. Maybe Mama Cass herself, although she died in London. And then there was another guy that apparently, a rumor was he died of a drug overdose at a party, and they buried him in the hillside. And my daughter saw him walking with a little red-haired girl down the hall once, and we think that he might have been there. But anyway, when we sold the house to Beverly, there was right in the California real estate document that we had to sign. By law, you have to divulge any unusual activity in the house. So I had to sign a clause in there that said yes at the beginning of our tenure in the house. We did have experience. Yeah. So she bought the house anyway. She's still there. She's very happy.
So you had to sign papers that said you had unusual activity.
If you sell a house in California, you will look in every real estate contract. There will be a clause that you must report
unusual
activity. So that is a state recognized.
What if you do acid in your house?
What's that?
What if you do acid in the house?
Joe has had his own eerie experiences right in the heart of Hollywood. The Comedy Store, once owned by the mob, is rumored to be haunted. Late at night, comics have heard whispers, seen shadow figures, and felt something watching them. Even Joe and his friends couldn't resist poking around for ghosts.
Have you ever seen a ghost? Do you think you've ever seen a ghost?
No, I do not.
Have you ever experienced something that was like super creepy?
You know what? A couple of my friends at the Comedy Store have claimed to have seen ghosts and claimed to have seen things. And I, with many of my friends that work there and comics and stuff, we've gone upstairs to the belly room in the dark and just freaked ourselves out and went, and ran out of there, stoned out of our mind. I feel it. We got to go. Or you go into the main room at night and you're like, give me a hug. Hold me. I'm scared. It's a weird place, man. People for sure have been murdered there. It was Bugsy Siegel's nightclub in the 30s or 40s or some shit. It was Ciro's nightclub.
Yeah, there's definitely some mojo there, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you've ever seen the film Fire in the Sky, you know of the terrifying story of Travis Walton. In 1975, he vanished for 5 days after a close encounter with a UFO. When he returned, he had memories of being aboard an alien spacecraft and the beings that studied him. Joe has talked to Walton himself, and he believes it might be one of the most legit alien encounters ever documented.
One by one, the other guys in the crew started looking, but nobody said, "Oh my God, what's that?" or anything like that. It was just kind of an idle curiosity at first. But when we burst into the clearing, where we could see the source of this glow, it was just, whoa, I mean, it was just mind-blowing instantly. I inexplicably got out of the truck and ran toward this thing. But I thought it was just going to take off, be gone in a flash. And
so when you say in the clearing, so are you driving on a dirt road?
Yeah, it's a dirt road. Trees are real thick. This was a part of the contract we hadn't cut in yet, so trees were a lot thicker there, except for this clearing. And we weren't the only ones that saw it. We found out later. Sheriff had on file people who were in the area that saw it, hunters and fishermen over there at Black Canyon Lake. They described this glow rising up and streaking off, I believe they said, toward the northeast. There were some people that probably don't want to be public about it, but there was one guy who was just deer hunting, and he worked in military intelligence, and he stuck by what he and his wife saw. They were both together.
Now, what do you remember when you're going through your mind and you're trying? I mean, this is a story you've told so many times, and this is a story that's been turned into a film, which it's got to be very surreal. But when you look into your memories and you try to go back to that day.
Well, I don't try. It's something I try to block out, but it's unforgettable. And there's...
What do you remember seeing when you ran into the clearing?
Well, the whole clearing was lit up with this weird glow. It's really hard to for any artist or movie to try to duplicate the strange glow there was there. Made everything look really, really pretty eerie, and
did it have a color to it?
It was kind of a golden color, but with a kind of a softness to it it wasn't like beams of light shooting out. It was just this haze of light.
And did it seem to come from a specific part of the craft, or?
Most of the surface seemed to be glowing. There were darker areas that didn't give off light, but it was the parts that weren't glowing. It wasn't so bright that you couldn't look at it, but it had a metallic look to it.
So what did the craft itself look like?
It was classic disc-shaped craft.
So you see this thing, this disc-shaped craft,
Yeah.
and then what happens?
It started to move and started to get louder.
Louder.
Yeah. It was the guys in the truck heard it too. There was a low thunderous kind of a rumble that you actually sort of felt more than heard. And then there were other high-pitched frequencies. I was talking to a group of students from technical college, and they were really interested in what the sound was like to try to, compare that with theories that they had concerning what might be their propulsion. But the increase in volume, it suddenly got louder as it started to move. And, at the same time, the guys in the truck were screaming, "Get away from there, let's go, get back in the truck, let's go." And, which would have been the smart thing to do. But as soon as it moved, it startled me, and I just ducked for cover. There was a log there. I got down behind this log, and they were screaming, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." And I didn't need to be told. I was just going to, stand up and run away. But see, when I jumped for cover, I went down and forward to reach where the log would hide me. And that brought me closer to it. So when I stood up, at that point, that was the closest I was to the object.
How close?
It was still like 8 or 10 feet away, from the surface of it. But that was when the energy discharge happened. I've worked on a number of theories about what might have happened. At the time, some of the other guys on the truck were thinking, immediately Steve said, "It got him." Like, if you shot a deer, you got it,
Right.
And so it might not have been as we assumed at first, that it was some kind of stun gun or something, but maybe just closing that gap allowed this energy to leap to ground through me.
There was a bunch of eyewitnesses, and there was witnesses that saw the spacecraft that were in the town. He was a logger in Arizona, and he had, including people that hated him, who backed up his story. So they saw something in this area where they were logging. There had been sightings, like multiple sightings of UFOs in the past. And they saw something go through the sky and into the trees. And they pulled the truck over. This guy, Travis Walton, who was a young guy at the time, he's in his early 20s, jumps out of the car, runs over to this thing, and there's a flying saucer, like a classic flying saucer that's hovering over the ground. It was like a flying saucer, right? Is that how he described it? I believe? Yeah. Anyway, he runs up, gets too close to this thing. A burst of energy hits him. Like he got too close to it or something, gets knocked down. The other guys run. They're terrified now. They run, they get in the car, they drive off. And then they're screaming and yelling at each other as they're driving off. Like, we got to go back and get him. We can't fucking leave him there.
Yeah.
So they go back to the same spot. He's gone. He disappeared for 5 days. And what's like 5 days? I hope I'm not fucking this up. So 5 days later, he shows up in town, calls someone on a cell phone, calls the police, tells them his story. There's recordings of him calling the police and telling his story. No one knows what happened to him. 5 days, no food, no water, and his story was that they took him aboard this spaceship and repaired him, that he got damaged by this burst of energy that came off of this spaceship, and that they repaired him, and that he communicated with these beings. And these beings are what everybody describes as these classic gray aliens. These things with these big heads and these large eyes, and then there was different types of creatures that were on this spaceship too. But that poor fucking guy, for the rest of his life, now he's like in his 60s, maybe 70s, and that's him. He came on the podcast, very nice guy, but now he's the fucking wacky UFO guy for the rest of his life. Like Travis Walton could have been a normal guy and had a normal life. And
Post Malone may be a skeptic, but one of the most terrifying experiences that he's had left him shaken. While ghost hunting with paranormal expert Zach Bagans, he came face to face with one of the most infamous cursed objects in the world, the Dybbuk box. He touched it, and from that moment, his life took a turn for the worst.
Don't quote me on that. Can you look up the stone tape theory for me?
stone tape.
But it's because I'm friends with Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, right?
Oh.
And it's like,
Did he ever take you to a haunted house?
we did a whole episode. You should check it
Did you
out.
get scared?
It's terrifying. It's terrifying, man. And in his museum, so apparently there's a thing called the Dybbuk box, which is one of the most haunted items in the world, apparently. And he wanted to, so we took the glass case off of the Dybbuk box, which is in his museum in Vegas. And he thought it was a sick-ass idea to put the ashes of a lady who died while she was possessed on top.
Whoa.
And then my plane almost crashed. I was in a car accident. My house got robbed, and I had bite marks on my arm. And he hit the wall like I've never seen someone in fear so hard as whenever he touched it. And it's I don't know if it's someone who's dead or if it's a demon or if it's fucking something dimensional. But it's something there that goes bump in the night, I suppose.
Comedian Matt Rife isn't just into ghost hunting. He takes it seriously. Investigating haunted locations alone, he's had terrifying encounters, including in the infamous Perron family house, the real home that inspired the Conjuring film series. What he saw and felt there convinced him, ghosts are real.
Really weird side hobby of mine, I go ghost hunting. I've been like around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
What have you experienced? Have you ever had like an absolute moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of a poltergeist?
Still not 1,000%. I've definitely witnessed things that I cannot for the life of me explain that have creeped me out. The timing has been impeccable. I've seen things move that there's just no fucking way that they've moved. I've gotten answers back on EVPs, but for me, it is one of those things I do need to see it.
Isn't an EVP like a radio though?
No, EVP is just a recorder.
It's a recorder. What's that radio thing? I'm sorry then. What is the one where they like listen?
There's a bunch
My
of different
daughter-
names.
My daughter's heavily into this shit.
What does she watch?
Heavily. Sam and Colby.
You had them on, right?
Yes.
So
Great guys.
So I met these other guys. There's another channel called the Overnight Channel who are equally as popular as Sam and Colby, and they actually used to work together. Then I believe they split off into each do their own thing. But that's who I started going with. So I'm very familiar with those guys.
So these kids, the Sam and Colby guys just went into the Conjuring house.
I was just there maybe a month and a half ago.
You went into the Conjuring house
by
too?
myself, Joe.
Okay. Do you believe that there's something going on in that house? The Conjuring movies are fucking great.
It's my favorite franchise.
They're fun. And there's so many of them. They really did it right. Like, if you want to be smart, they branched off with The Nun. They branched off with Annabelle.
And I love the way they tie in the story for each one to make it all one chronological story. It's genius.
Yeah.
I will say I wasn't as scared as I've been in a lot of places we've been. There is some kind of solace to the house. But you get to know the history of it, and it does make sense that there would be something here. I mean, it's on some ley lines of water underground. There was wars fought there. There's apparently bodies buried on the property in the walls of the property structures and stuff. There's a lot of history that goes into it that just makes for kind of the perfect storm for some creepy shit. But I didn't witness anything that was that insane. Some items moved. Some cars rolled off of the children's dressers a couple of times on cue. And that's the one thing I do pride ourselves in these videos is so often we get absolutely nothing because we don't fake anything. So you only get to see the highlights. Like there's so many times we'll go to a place that is so notoriously haunted and we'll be there for 10 hours and get absolutely nothing. And it sucks. But that makes when something does happen that much more valuable. It's so much more impressive.
I think the way you think has an unmeasured effect in terms of like this. There's energy that you put out. There's connections you make with people. They're very, very unmeasured.
And you can manifest your own perception of things for sure.
Yeah. So what my concern is like if you go into a place with a pre-existing knowledge of ghosts, like you think ghosts are here, you think ghosts are real, you have this thought in your mind that you maybe experience a ghost in this place that's haunted. You're at this elevated level of anticipation. You're probably really nervous and kind of freaked out, and your imagination starts firing up. And I'm not even saying that these people are lying or that they're seeing things that aren't there. I'm saying maybe you make things show up. Maybe you see memories. Maybe you experience some horrible energy that existed in this spot 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that there's like ways you can tune into that.
I could see that being possible, but to me, that's what's so exciting about it is like you go hoping for those solidified answers. You're going hoping to witness something that you couldn't have possibly made up.
But you know why I think that too? Is like you never see them in the daytime. Ghosts don't exist on the street.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but not outside.
They're never outside. That's a very good point.
That's my point, is like you're always trapped.
Say what you will about Alex Jones, but his claims about premonitions are unsettling to say the least. He insists that his dreams predict real-world events, including assault that he experienced later on in his life. But it gets even weirder. He believes that we're all living inside a virtual reality simulation, controlled by God, who knows everything except where he came from.
I have had dreams my whole life that come true. And the weirdest thing, like a lady drops a thing of pickles at the store. For 5 years I have the dream, and then one day I'm there and it's the woman in the pickles break. Or I walk around a corner.
When was this?
Particularly when I was a kid, it was more intense.
That is fucking crazy. So for 5 years you had the same dream and then one day it happened?
Yes.
Was it exactly how you dreamt it?
Yes.
Fuck.
For about 6 months, I had a dream of a guy in a purple and green striped shirt. And I'm like, why am I walking? Because it's not like normal dreams. It's like you've been taken over. And you always get vomit after
Lucid, like a lucid dream.
Lucid dream. And I'm walking around like, why am I behind a building? And all of a sudden, there's some dude in a purple and green striped shirt, and he attacks me. And 6 months later, it happens. And I mean, it happens exactly. So,
what do you think is going on? All thoughts of yourself aside, just look at it objectively. What do you think that is?
you could say that it's human programming and basic programming in the brain.
Do you think you're tapping into a timeline that maybe you can't access all the time?
Well, that's what I know it is.
One of the reasons why you can rant and rave and when you spew out information the way you do, which is very impressive. The way you can talk about things
for 3 hours straight,
and get
6
excited
hours
about
straight.
things. You do the majority of your programs entirely by yourself.
No
But I
teleprompter.
agree with you. It's not like I'm telling you,
This
literally
is
this.
you're doing something unusual. Do you
But that's
understand
it.
that?
I'm not even doing it. It's like a river's going by. There's a turtle. There's a fish. There's a log. That's why it's like random. Like, what is this? What is that exactly?
If that really did happen to you, if this is your real life experience, I want to know what the fuck that is. Are you on the periphery? Do you have your finger on a membrane that maybe other people can't totally touch? Where occasionally, just occasionally, you get a little peek through and you get to see the other side. Even if it's only once or twice in your life. Who's to say that what you're experiencing by being able to see these things that manifest themselves realistically in the future, that this isn't what human beings will have 5 years from now or 100 years from now?
Well, sure, exactly.
Right?
We think of like a cell phone being magic hunters.
We think we're all the same. That's the thing. We think we're all the same, but we're not all the same. We're not all the same in our ability to talk. You can talk for a lot longer about a
talk
lot of
better
different
than I
things
do.
than I do. Eddie Bravo could talk about jiu-jitsu better than both of us, and he's a musician. So you and I both suck at music, right? So there's certain things that people can do that you can't do.
Well, let me try to describe it. And they'll use this against me, but notice they don't touch it because it's their whole religion and they can't stand up talking about it. By the time I was like 3 years old, I would have this dream that God has. Because God knows everything, is this super intelligent, omnipresent, unlimited dimensions, but God doesn't know where God came from. So just like we're trying to find out where we came from, God is like a virtual reality simulation as well. And God is constantly running every program, every operation, turning evil loose, good loose, everything. So I would have these dreams. But the earliest memories, like 2-3 years old, where I would fly out to the edge of infinity. And it was a continual message. Find out where we came from, find out what it is. And it would just be this big, giant, spinning black vortex, like a black hole. And then I would have to go into that, trying to figure out what was going on. And it was the same thing. And so it's this incredible frustration. So then growing up and dealing with things and questioning politics and questioning all these other areas, and then having dreams that come true exactly, and like knowing what's going to happen before it happens, and then questioning it, and then it never being wrong, be like weird, not bright, like crazy stuff, man. Like just so much stuff where it becomes like you can't even deal with it. You like dial it out, and then you just reach that point where you don't even know what's real anymore because it's so crazy. But then you see like the mathematics of the whole system and you know how it works. It's not like you're some schizophrenic. You talk about it, you deal with it, and it actually works. Like now when you fight the system, you automatically know what to do. Like when you talk about something the president word for word repeats, Trump, this is what freaks him out. Word for word, whole speeches, like whole things. And I'm on a power trip. That's what they flipped out about at the CIA and everywhere else. And they're like, well, Jones is like connected to Trump, and I think Trump's like an idiot savant.
What does that have to do with this speech? Explain that. Trump's speech? I'm trying to follow you.
I don't even know.
That's the thing. It's hard to follow you sometimes.
Because
we were talking
I'm not
about
doing a good
God.
job.
You were talking
This
about
all came
Trump's
before
speech
that.
abilities?
Well, even before that, he was talking about God.
Okay, so God knows everything except where God came from.
One of the most chilling UFO encounters happened in 1994 at the Ariel School in Zimbabwe. Dozens of children claimed to have seen strange beings and flying crafts. Many of their testimonies were eerily similar. Filmmaker James Fox took over a documentary about the case after the previous filmmaker died under mysterious circumstances. Let's just say it kept getting weirder and weirder.
And I said to myself at the time, and remind you guys that I was making a film on UFOs, and I dismissed it so quickly because I thought there's no way that a mass landing with the sheer volume of eyewitness testimony at a school in broad daylight could happen and the whole world not know about it. So I just walked away from that story for about 10 years. 10 years later, I'm doing an event at the National Press Club with Leslie Kean, who was part of the article in the New York Times that came out in 2017. And she introduced me to this guy, Randall Nickerson. And she's like, oh, he's working on this landing case in Africa. Long story short, he's working on a film now. I think it's coming out next year, specifically on just that case. Dan Farah is producing it. And he said, I'm working on the case, and if you want to do something with me on it, a small piece, I could. So I got back into it. I licensed some of the footage that Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist that came and interviewed the school children on camera within a week of it happening. He unfortunately looked the wrong way in London, got run down by a car and died. So I contacted the Institute with the help of Randall Nickerson. I licensed the archival footage. We tracked down the witnesses today. We flew them in from all different corners of the world, brought them together. A lot of them were standing right next to each other. They came face to face, and one of the things I realized was that there were roughly 100 kids in the playground, broad daylight, aerial school, Rua, Zimbabwe, 1994, and they got within some of them within arm's length of these beings, and brought these witnesses together for the first time in 20 years. And a lot of them hadn't even told their significant others, just because they said they were tired of having to defend this. And I myself didn't believe it when I first heard about it back in 1997. And that segment of the film is the most, in my opinion, is the most powerful segment, because
it's very compelling.
You've got all these children saying what they saw on camera after it happened, and then you see them 20 years later, and then we go to Africa and we meet with the headmistress. She was a teacher at the time. We meet with other witnesses. We go to the landing site. We talk to people at the school. That case is absolutely, and it was witnessed by lots of other people in and around the area for several days before it chose a school to land.
It's so compelling because the children are all clearly, they're not actors. So as they're adults later, they're all talking about this moment, and it's like they had a religious experience together. Like they're all sharing it and talking about it, and you could tell it's like it's a deeply moving experience. If they were actors, they wouldn't have been able to do such a good job, because to convey the reality of that moment to them, to be able to have this interpretation of this event where they're all consistent in the story and they're all clearly still shook by this moment. It's really interesting, because if you had that scene in a movie, it would take like a really good actor to pull it off. And they'd probably need multiple takes. They'd probably want to get the best one. But those kids, the way they were talking about it and the way they were drawing it, you're like, wow, it really does seem like something happened to them.
I know how credible that the testimony of the children is, because my partner, Rebecca, she's never had much of an interest in what I do, making documentaries on UFOs. I do other things as well, but when I was reviewing in the studio the archival interview of the children, she just dropped off a cup of coffee and she stopped and went, oh my God, those children are not lying. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because look, I ask your audience to don't take it from me. Just suspend judgment for a moment and imagine, hypothetically, if a UFO or several UFOs landed at a school in broad daylight in Rua, Zimbabwe, Africa, and interacted telepathically with nearly 100 school children. Not all of them had telepathic, but seen the incident. How significant of a story would you give that?
Well, not only that, they had the same message.
Yes.
What the telepathic message was that technology is a real problem.
Yes.
And there's things that people are doing with technology that are going to ruin the earth.
Yes.
And they were trying to relay this to children, which is very strange.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, maybe they just thought they were adults because they were the same size as the aliens. I mean, do you think they knew that they were children? Do you think they understood that it was a school? I mean, this is all speculation, right?
But no, I definitely had to ask myself, look, during the production of the film, Paula Harris actually turned me on to another landing case that happened in Australia in 1966 at a school. And this time there were roughly 300 witnesses that saw a disc land right outside a playground in Australia. And we went to Australia and investigated that case, went to the landing site, talked to eyewitness testimony, people that jumped the fence at the school playground and ran over to where this thing landed. And then we even interviewed a guy who snapped a photograph of a disc, a Polaroid, back in 1966, 2 days prior to the incident. So it's very probably that we have photographic evidence, we have eyewitness testimony, and for the first time we've got testimony from a science teacher. So why do these things land at schools? It seems like, and I'm just totally speculating here, but it seems like if I were going to do that, it seems like a pretty benign environment. We have testimony from military guys that we take a fairly hostile position towards things that penetrate sensitive military installations. And, so maybe, I'm just saying maybe
It's safe.
Maybe it's safe.
Did UFOs visit us long before modern sightings? Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell presents evidence of strange flying objects appearing in ancient paintings and artwork, making his conversation feel straight out of Ancient Aliens.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I actually have a page. One of the first pages I ever put on my website is like a bunch of these, because throughout history, there are these indications of ships, of craft.
But
like,
you know the one I'm talking
Yes.
about? It's like, and
Yes.
that's the shape of it. It's also like a plate turned on its side, and then there's a person inside
Yes.
of it.
Yeah, man. It's
And
exciting.
it's flying through in that same, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, look
Yeah,
look
it's
how
incredible.
it's flying.
But the thing is that everybody can say art. The one above that's pretty cool because that was a hidden thing. I've studied that one where it says Discovery 15th century. Above her left shoulder, there is an object, and if you really zoom in, look at the dude staring up at it. As a painter, my wife is a painter. Everything is intentional.
Which guy, where's the guy? The guy on the
right over there. It's pretty
right,
cool.
Looking up.
So I think that's 15th century. It said. So the problem with this, Joe, is
Go to the original one, the one that we just looked at, Jamie. The one right before that. Yeah. See, get a big picture of that.
Yeah.
That is so strange. Like
Yeah,
here
man.
you got Christ being crucified, and then above him UFOs. Like, and is that supposed to be aliens, or is that supposed to be angels? Like, what is that supposed to be in these things that they have? It's real similar to what we're talking about here.
That's the argument of Miracle of Fatima, let's say. I mean, again, this is so speculative. We have a witness here of Pilate, but when you see something like the Miracle of Fatima, if you look at that,
What is the Miracle of Fatima?
God, that's that one that was, considered a real miracle by the church, and the 3 kids were getting messages. I'll get this all wrong, but for like months that they're going to be visited and to bring people, and bigger groups gathered to where there was over 100,000 people.
What year is this?
1917.
1917. So, dozens of thousands, if not hundreds, but dozens for sure, see an event, a mass sighting of something that happened. We're talking people that were religious, people that weren't religious, doctors at the time.
That's not a real image, is it,
No,
Jamie?
that one was doctored a little bit, so you could see like they're all looking at something.
But that's not real.
Yeah,
But that's
that thing wasn't
but
really
that's
there.
the crowd, right? The crowd is real. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Picture the crowd
here's the
is
thing. People come out, something happened that was so intense. Some people thought it was religious, that it was a visitation, but other people saw it as technological, like something descended. Look into it. I'm just saying, art, pictures, like paintings we're talking about, man, you can interpret them all day. I can't hold on to that. I can hold on to an eyewitness with other eyewitnesses, with radar systems, and with video. We're in a different era now. We don't have to paint it, man. We get to see it.
Area 51 has been the center of UFO conspiracy theories for decades. But investigative journalist George Knapp claims it goes deeper than we ever imagined. According to insiders, the government doesn't just have alien spacecraft, they allegedly have a living alien. They've been communicating with it.
You hear it
Straight
and come
up.
forward.
Did anybody ever reach out to you that claimed to also have worked with Bob at S4?
A bunch, yeah. And
did you verify any of them?
no, they could not be verified, and in fact, I think they were lying to me.
And
one
Bob
in
shoots
particular.
people down all the
Yeah.
time. So that guy's fucking standing on a UFO stage lying bullshit. I mean, so
Right.
no, he hasn't even. He was hoping one other employee would. However, I have had people that work at Area 51 confirm parts of Bob's story. One in particular saw him coming off the jet, or he says he saw him coming off the Janet flights. I said, will you go on record with me that you met Bob there on the tarmac? No. Why? Everything we did there was confidential. We couldn't even tell our wives. Why would I go on record with you?
And if he did go on record, he'd probably get harassed or arrested or...
Yeah, he can't even tell you what he ate for lunch out there. You know, and one of the guys I was real excited to talk with just recently passed away. He actually started the bar that was at Area 51, so everybody told the bartender stuff. He started as a flower fund because no one would send flowers to wives when people died out there. But my point is, people have come forward to George, to me. A lot of people are lying, but it adds up over time, man.
I got more than 24 people who have come to me with bits and pieces of the story, who had worked out at Area 51 that I confirmed were out there. Security people who had seen a disc under a tarp in a hangar. Different people had worked there at different times, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, who had little pieces of the story, not to confirm Bob. And then there was one that I pursued. I don't know if you want to keep going on this, but I had pursued this guy. I was trying to find in the early 90s people who were in a position to know about what goes on out there, and I found one. And he had been active in the nuclear weapons program. He had worked for EG&G. He had EG&G had the contract to manage Area 51 from the beginning, all the way through the first 30 or 40 years of it. And so I started basically stalking the guy. One of his sons was a state senator, and he had told me, he confided to me, that you got to ask my dad about UFOs and aliens. And another son had been an FBI agent. So I stalked the guy, introduced myself. There were a couple of public events where I would just show up, and he finally got confident enough in me to invite me to his home. And he gets out these scrapbooks, and he's showing me these stories and clippings and photos from the nuclear weapons program. And I'm watching and taking notes and stuff, and suddenly he closes the book and he goes, "You're not here to talk about this nuclear weapons, are you?" I said, "No, not really." And his wife walks in and she says, "Oh, you're not going to tell him that stuff, are you?" And then he started telling me. And then over the course of 2 years, I would meet with him, have a cup of coffee somewhere. I couldn't take notes. I couldn't record anything, but he told me the story. Now, this guy actually is someone that you've had reference to on your show. Remember Annie Jacobson, her book about Area 51?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same guy, but the story that he told me was different than what he told her. He said that they eventually told me that they had a live alien out there, that I could not go public with this until after he died, that they had craft, that it was in a special spot. Originally it was at Indian Springs, which is now Creech Air Force Base, and then it was moved to Area 51 when 51 became active, and that it was a very small group that tried to analyze this stuff. They didn't know where it was from. They didn't know how we obtained it. He said this thing was alive, and that they eventually were able to communicate with us, and told me that he was going to make a videotape and he was going to make it available so that after he died I could have it. Well, suddenly 2 or 3 years later, he totally changes his story. What had happened was there was a congressional investigator. His name was Richard D'Amato, and he worked for Senator Robert Byrd, and he oversaw black budget projects. And he got onto this UFO story from Whitley Strieber. And so he was assigned, find out what the deal is. So he went around the country, talked to different researchers, and came to me and wanted to know about Area 51 and Lazar. So I told him the story, and I told him about this guy. And he got permission for this guy to violate his security oaths and talk to him about it. And they had multiple conversations, and they went to the founders of EG&G, the company, and it became a dead end. But after that congressional inquiry, this guy completely changed his tune. So he made up this story, which is the one that you heard from Andy Jacobson, that what crashed at Roswell was a Russian technology, Nazi technology, flown by the Russians, containing little concentration camp victims who'd been experimented on by Dr. Mengele. Completely ridiculous, story. But I think he got scared. He was a real guy in a real position to know, and had shared with his family some of this information. I think the story that he told me was legit.
Are ghosts and aliens real? Did Joe's guest reveal hidden truths, or were these just incredible stories? You decide. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for some more spine-chilling content.